that we, Somaliland, as predominantly a Muslim country, shouldn't actually adopt. But our people, our government and our community are fully committed to promoting democracy, and I'm glad that IRA has witnessed that democratic reform, and it was a pleasure to have you in Somaliland during our elections, but also and many other times working with us in promoting democracy, but also providing vital services for our people. Another reason why we have been attacked is because of the relationship we have with the democratic states, like the United States of government, other peace-loving nations on the earth, and the Somaliland's ambition to become a nation state that is taking an important role in the war against piracy, war against terror, hasn't been welcomed by terrorists in the region. One of the key developments for the last year since this government is the idea of linking up with the international community much more effectively than we have ever done before. We have adopted what we call a pragmatic foreign policy, which in a nutshell sets out that yes, recognition is and will always remain a goal for the people of Somaliland. My government is committed working on that and trying to convince many members of the international community to recognize politically government and the people of Somaliland. But we also adding other foreign policy objectives on table. Foreign policy recognition is a key and a goal, but we want to cooperate and work with the international community on a range of issues. On economic development, for example. We think if we can deliver, if we can create jobs and opportunities for our young people, for our people, that will consolidate our governance. It will help our sustainability as a government, and that is going to make us sustainable. That will help us to sustain the achievements that we have made so far. Achievements in democracy, achievements in peace and stability, rule of law, development of the private sector and the civil society. These are vital achievements that Somaliland have achieved by and large on our own. We need to sustain those. That's our priority. And in order to sustain those achievements, we need to cooperate much more effective and imaginative in a way that we have never done before with the international community. So yes, we will be seeking for recognition, but that will not stop us working effectively with the international community, Britain, UK, EU, Arab states and African countries, because we have a key interest sustaining those achievements. For that matter, our current government is actively looking for international investment. I have, as a part of a broader team led by our president, have been to Hong Kong, China recently. One of the reasons we went there is to see whether we can have an economic development cooperation with China. We were looking for opportunities where we could have an investment in our infrastructure, roads, hospitals, ports, those key elements which we hope will provide us jobs and provide us security and provide us wealth is our priority. We're also working with the West in the war against terror, because we think that's a common interest for us and for the other people. Otherwise, we will not be able to achieve the objectives that we have achieved. We also work with the international community on the war against piracy. Piracy has been very active in the region that we are part of. I have to say that Somaliland has taken a key role in the fight against piracy. We have arrested as many as 90 pirates who have been committing an act of pirate crimes in our international territorial waters. And they are currently serving prison sentences, most of them in Somaliland. This is unique in a context where piracy is actually involved in the economic means of Somalia, particularly regions of Somalia like Puntland. But we have able to deny pirates to have bases on the ground in Somaliland. And we think that's the most effective way of dealing with piracy, is to deny them to have bases, let alone their economy to be integrated with the normal economy. And that's something which we have achieved, and something we are calling on for Somalia, and in particular Puntland, because that's where the the bulk of pirates come. In fact, all the 90 pirates, none is from Somaliland who are in prisons. All are mainly from Puntland region, but other regions of Somalia too. So we are calling on Somalia to be more effective and to deny pirates and the pirate activities on the ground in their territory. The dual track approach introduced by the United States government has offered us given us a new opportunity. This has meant that the international community will, of course, focus on Somalia because of the problems that Somalia presents. But that will not stop, according to dual track policy, working with Somaliland. In other words, rewarding positive progress, democracy, peace and stability. So that's a policy which we embrace and we welcome that policy. But we would like that policy to become more clearer and more concrete in relation to what we could expect in Somaliland from the United States government and from other friendly governments that is increasingly applying that dual track approach. But I have to mention here, and we are very pleased with that, that for the last year the international engagement have increased to Somaliland. We have had a number of high-profile visitors and visitors from the West, including ministers, foreign ministers, international development ministers, people from Britain, Denmark, Norway. We have had a high-level delegation from USAID in Somaliland, in a way that we never had before. So we think that dual-track policy has already started delivering. We want to have more substance of that in terms of increased development aid, increased cooperation in the fight against piracy, increased assistance in the fight and cooperation in the fight against terrorism. And we would also like to be supported to access international and regional forums where security and political issues that affect us are being discussed. I know the Security Council gets a regular report on Somalia. We would like for the UN Security Council to get regular reports about Somaliland too, because we present an alternative and we present a positive contribution to the region, and we would like to Somaliland to be reported on a regular basis at the UN Security Council briefings. A final thought about our view about Somalia. We have an interest in stable Somalia and secure Somalia. After all, that's where the majority of insecurity in our country comes from. Piracy comes from Somalia to us. Problems caused by pirates. Terrorism and Al-Shabaab and all that stuff originates mainly from Somalia, and we are being affected by that problem. So we have a key interest in bringing security and stability back into Somalia, and therefore we are very supportive of the efforts by the international community with that regard. But we think the approach has been too long from top down. I think the international community should make the TFG accountable for what they are doing for the people of Somalia. But we are very supportive about that approach. We think that Somaliland has a role to play in bringing peace and stability, and therefore we would like to be given an opportunity to express our views, to share our experience of state building and peace building and reconciliation in regional and international forums. You have what international community call ICG conferences, international contact groups. I know that those conferences has not been very effective in terms of delivering peace and stability, but Somaliland can provide can share experience. It is own experience in forums like that, and therefore we would like to be able to access those forums in order to be to play an active role in the regional affairs that affect us. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm quite happy to take on questions afterwards. Thank you.
Before opening it up to questions, I'm sure there are going to be quite a number of questions, especially on current events and the quest for recognition. If I can exercise the moderator's prerogative to ask a first question that looks a little bit backward, because I think looking at where you've come from and the decisions that Somaliland's leaders have made, one really has to acknowledge that some of them were visionary decisions that contain lessons learned, I think, for other transitions. I think understated, I think, was the decision of the Somali national movement to put itself out of business rather than continue as a governing party, which is unprecedented in the African context, where part of the problem is revolutionary liberation movements that become ruling parties that don't want to go off the scene. Can you tell us a little bit about that decision process, because you were involved, and certainly President Solano, how you made these decisions which seemed haphazard at the time, but now are paying very rich dividends in the political culture?
That's absolutely a good question. The SNM, the SNM, the Somali National Movement, the main purpose for the SNM was to free the people of Somaliland. The purpose was not to get offices for them, to lead the country or to compete power. The primary preoccupation was to free the people of Somaliland from the former regime of Siad Barre, because they felt that the citizens in Somaliland have been treated as a second citizens. They have not been given an equal access to natural resources, equal access to education, health and wealth, and therefore they think they have accomplished their job once they have freed the people of Somaliland, and they have opened the political space for everyone to participate and to think with them about how to go forward. And one of the key, Peter is absolutely right, important decisions they made was to relinquish power to another group that was seen as to be more inclusive in terms of the different constituencies in Somaliland, but also to have the courage and the leadership that the people of Somaliland required at that time. And that decision will remain historic in the history. The current president, Ahmed Mohamed Silayo, was the longest leader of the leader with the longest period during the SNM, and he was leading that process, and he was one of the key influential people who have made those decisions to be possible, those decisions to be made at the time in 1991.
The Minister will now take questions. If you would, I think there are microphones. If you would identify yourself and when you introduce your question.
Welcome, Minister. Tony Carroll, Manchester Trade, and I'm an adjunct faculty member of Johns Hopkins University. I'm wondering, what do the Africa Union leadership or members tell you? I think with perhaps one of the unforeseen consequences of the departure of both Thabo Mbeki and President Obasanjo in Nigeria, it seems that two of the most prominent African leaders who were inclined to have a serious discussion about independent Somaliland are no longer on the continent's political scene. So I'm wondering if you are getting much receptivity from African Union leadership, other African heads of state, on the issue of sovereignty. Just wondering if that conversation has changed within the last 2 years.
I certainly hope that the attitude of the African Union would change in the next year or two or whatever. More so because of the Southern Sudan case, which has become independent this year and has been well embraced by African countries. We think that will, even though the case of South Sudan is not the same case as Somaliland.
You have a stronger case than I
absolutely, we have a very stronger case than South Sudan. We had our own independence. We have been an independent state before. We're not talking about secession in Somaliland. We're talking about a dissolution of a union that we went on a voluntary basis, a union which we don't think it was actually rectified legally. So it is not a legal case that is taking us back or stopping us from having a recognition. It is actually a political will.